So I always believe that the focus with people that have children isn't just to go learn the parenting style, it's to reparent yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't need to be so hard on everyone because everyone on this planet Earth is going through life for the first time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Dr. B, and today's topic is how to raise sane children in an insane world. Today, I have Parham and Dr. I'm honored and pleased, and we've been meaning to do this for a long time. He is a licensed clinical therapist. He is master's level social work. He's a college professor. He is clinical director and chief operating officer at one of the most successful rehabs in town, Buckeye Recovery. What else do you do, Parham? He works in the area of motivation and coaching. So he's got an impressive resume. Some of you know him. We have done a lot of work together. Everyone loves him. Parham, welcome.
Oh man, Dr. B, it's so good to be back. I genuinely mean it. Dr. B reached out to me and said, I want you to start coming back and shooting some videos together. And before he even finished the sentence, I said, I will gladly participate in whatever you have going on because I respect you, I admire you, I look up to you, and one day I hope that I can influence the lives of people the way you've influenced the lives
I think
of
you
someone.
have. You're considered in town as the best addiction therapist. I know you do less of that work, hands-on anyway. I know you run your program, but I feel the same way about you.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have fun here, and this channel will grow. They titled this, How to Raise Sane Children in an Insane World. I have a lot of thoughts on this issue, especially, in the early developmental years up to the age of 4, 5, 6, 7. I think most people get it wrong in our society. I think those suffering from issues with substance abuse and addiction and then coming out of it, this also becomes a major issue because they're trying to sort out the guilt and be good parents and be there in place. But I think this goes beyond those suffering from addiction and substance abuse. We understand the challenges they face and what needs to happen and then getting them in the right place. But in general, it is an insane world. And everything from us having the phones in our hand all the time, constantly being plugged into work. And I also think most people don't have an idea of how to truly be there for their children in the early developmental years. Oftentimes, we all talk about trauma, and it's sort of the slogan in the industry now. And I think most people don't really understand fully what trauma in childhood is, because it's much more than gross physical trauma, obvious psychological trauma and verbal abuse and emotional abuse, gross neglect, gross creating food and housing insecurity.
Yeah.
But there's a subtlety and a complexity to the developing child. And just so you know, and maybe some people I know, I am not a psychologist, but I very much adhere to the theoretical foundations of objects relations for healthy development of the self and gaining meaning to cope with the world. I think that's lacking, and I don't care if parents are even not suffering from substance abuse. I think most of us miss it. I think society has created a situation where it makes it difficult to be a real parent in the way those kids need. And eventually these kids come up, look for meaning, validation, and love in the broadest sense of the word in places that they shouldn't, because they never found meaning in themselves through the connection with the parents, and then things go to poo-poo, and people wonder why. Give me your thoughts on it's a big topic,
It's a big
right?
topic,
We're
yeah.
trying to cover these topics in short time, and guys don't expect us to be able to hit everything. But we are coming from both clinical experience and also sort of distilling the literature down for you in a digestible way. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so, one of the deeper level of my education is actually marriage and family therapy, not social work. However, it was the emphasis in child development. So that was kind of the framework that I started to look at, because when you look at an individual at a certain stage of adulthood, it is irresponsible to not look at all the stages that occurred prior to that led to that individualized version. So the most important part here for me is to realize that we are not just who we are right now, but we are created and developed in a moment-by-moment interaction with our environment and the people in it from the time that we are not even born yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even born yet until this moment right now. So all of that exposure, all of that experience, all of that good, bad, indifferent, everything in between leads to certain cognitive, social, physical developments or lack thereof. I love how you started going down trauma, because I know what you were about to say. You didn't say it, so maybe you saved it for me so I could say it now so I can sound smart. Trauma is not always the things that happen to us. Trauma is often the things that didn't happen that should have happened. So, things that didn't happen to us.
And I'll give a couple of examples in a minute. But please go ahead.
So hold that one. And for all the parents, Doc talked about the parents that when they get into recovery, they have all of this like coulda, woulda, shoulda, the regret. I could have done this better. Now I have to do this, and they're full of guilt and they're full of like, barriers to being good parents. I'll tell you this. Most people I've worked with in this space, they oftentimes come from dysfunctional families. I'm not saying all the time, so I'm talking in generalities, dysfunctional homes. So the parent, when they were a child, they never received what it was that was needed to be able to be a present, emotionally available, communicative human being as an adult. So now they're adults and they have children. It's really hard to ask somebody to give something they don't have. So I always believe that the focus with people that have children isn't just to go learn the parenting style, it's to reparent yourself.
Yeah. To
really reparent yourself and give yourself all it was that you needed at a time in your life that you never got. Now, sometimes this could come from, family of origin stuff, but oftentimes it doesn't. It comes from somebody that you sit down with a compassionate ear, compassionate eye, can listen to your story and give you unconditional, positive regard and let you know that things are going to be okay and teach you a few tools and some skills to be able to reparent yourself. Because I believe when a parent is whole and connected to themselves, then and only then are they truly available to be able to parent a child.
God, there's so much we can talk about here, and you bring up. Let me give some concrete things that I think you should consider. And Parham can correct me if he thinks I'm wrong, because he has extensive. Number one, if you go down this road to be able to deliver this to a child in your life, I think you will grow and mature out of it, because to be able to do what Parham just described also means raising yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've witnessed this firsthand with someone I know very well, really well, better than anyone in the world. You will grow and mature in ways you never thought of. So, the child is going to give you in many ways a lot more than you give the child. Two, Parham has said it in a way, it's not just what you give them, it's what you don't give them. Okay. And a few things. I'm going to say three things. One, playing with your kid doesn't mean being in that same room with them while you're on your phone or talking to your boyfriend or talking to your girlfriend or talking to your job's boss or whatever. You're not there, okay? Be assured you're not there with that child as they're playing their Lego or whatever it is, or making sticks, and you're not paying attention. They know, they feel, and later on they'll be looking for a different object. I know this is hard for a lot of people, because remember, everything is not just from us. It's our society that we've built, and society may not allow that, because you're like, I gotta feed them, I gotta pay rent. But there's many times, so this is your challenge. You have to figure it out. 3, don't underestimate the intelligence of the child. At the same time, understand where their brain is. Once the kid starts talking, always remember, they're talking, but they're not a 40-year-old. Be cautious of the language you use.
Yeah.
Understand how their brain interprets things at that particular age. Can they abstract from concretes? Why are you telling them your problems? That's not your best friend. That's someone. So always be aware that it's a child. At the same time, don't underestimate their emotional and cognitive intelligence, and don't think you're getting away with anything. And number 4, make an example of what you're trying to teach them and how you live. And that's not just what you do in front of them. I assure you, if you're presenting some sort of bullshit in front of them about what is right, what is wrong. And when they're not seeing, or when you're out, you're participating in things that are something you would never want him to do, and you're teaching him differently, they're going to catch on to that. That's going to cause some sort of ego dystonic reaction for that child as they're growing. So a lot of the things Parham said, I sort of made it now, in my view, the way I've seen all these things kind of fester or proceed in a positive way. Those are my concrete advice on some some of these issues that you put in a brilliant abstract presentation. And I'll add this, Parham, I know it's hard. Yeah. And some people don't even have necessarily at that moment, you might not have the background, the tools, or the understanding. Okay, what do I do here? But listen to me. There's always a good resource of whether it's a channel with some expert or reading. You can find these things out and proceed in that way. And those are some of my concrete examples about some of the stuff you brought up.
Yeah, and you know, anytime the topic of parenting comes up, it's a very sensitive topic.
It is.
Because most people, first of all, don't want to be categorized or labeled as a bad parent, because sometimes they're literally doing the best they can.
Yeah, so I should have said that, but please go ahead.
They're doing the best they can with what they have during that time. And, you know, if that's you, bless your heart for doing so. And they oftentimes even get one level more defensive and say, hey, you don't know what happened to me when I was a child, right? You don't know what I've experienced. I'm doing the best I can. But I'll tell you this, even though things happen in life that weren't your fault at a younger age, as an adult, all of us, including myself, including Dr. B, we are actually responsible for learning what we need to learn, whatever it takes to be able to evolve, because if we don't, the past continues to carry on into the future. And that's how multi-generational patterns of dysfunction in family homes exist. I mean, how many children out there were children and their parent was abusive and they promised themselves, when I grow up, I'm never going to do that to somebody. And all of a sudden one day they're standing there and all of a sudden they become abusive themselves and they break down and cry saying, how am I doing this? You know, what am I doing to my child right now? And it's so subtle and subconscious. However, once we become aware of it and make the decision and decide to break these multi-generational patterns, that's when some vulnerability, some therapy, some education, some commitment comes in place, that regardless of why it all happened, that we want to change the story moving forward. And those parents, transformed parents, can transform children. You know, I strongly believe in that. And it's a very hopeful message. And the last thing, you know, I tell parents when they get really defensive, and I tell actually the young adults or the individuals that have resentments towards their parents, right? So the other side of it, if they struggle with the way their mom or dad was or is and all that kind of stuff, I say, hey, can you just pause for a second and just tap into a little bit of empathy and compassion and remember the following. Sometimes we don't need to be so hard on everyone, because everyone on this planet Earth is going through life for the first time.
Yeah.
Including our parents.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I want to acknowledge everyone's doing the best they can with the tools and resources they have. Yeah. Look, I absolutely acknowledge that, understand that, but I'm going to challenge everybody. Yeah. Everybody can do better. You know, it could be, you know, if you're sitting there, I just told you, put that phone down. There's nobody in this world. And if you are going to get a job, you have to have the courage of your convictions. And if your conviction is, I'm going to raise a child that's going to have a better life than me, or if I'm going to raise a child as healthy as I can, have the courage, step up. You will lose things in this world, right? You might lose a friend, or you might lose a job. I understand that seems impossible to get, but I will tell you this. I have seen people have courage, step up, and nothing happens to any of us. In fact, better things happen in the long run, and you won't have to deal with the consequences on that child in the future. Yeah. So there's hope, there's possibility, and I also have compassion and understanding with we are all limited with the tools we have. Yeah. And I think this is the way to get your child to a healthy place throughout their teenage years and into adulthood. And I think the core thing we're talking about, I think the essence of the message here is that child has to have a sense of real meaning, real love, real emotional support that he can always turn to in a consistent way no matter what, until they get to a point where they can manage things themselves. And also, they need to have stimulation, emotional, cognitive, and believe it or not, physical.
Yeah.
That's where I am on this.
Yeah, you know, and the title of this video, just to wrap back up to it, was How to Raise Sane Children in an Insane World. So it's important to find out what sane even means, right?
Sure.
So sane is defined, sanity is defined as the soundness of mind, right? The soundness of mind. So how do I help another human being achieve a soundness of mind? Well, going back to the individual again, do I have a soundness of mind? You know, because I believe if you're insane yourself because of life's experiences, and trust me, I've been there. You know, Doc didn't really talk about my personal recovery and, you know, the challenges I've endured over life and this and that. And there was a time in my life that I was practically insane, but I was able to achieve a soundness of mind. And now with that new mindset, I can go help somebody that's, you know, in a state that's insane and be able to help them at least see some things that make sense to them. And children need that too, because for them, everything's just, nothing really makes sense. This world is amazingly beautiful, overwhelming, scary, and they need an adult, an emotionally connected adult, to be able to sit with them when they're going through emotional disturbances, fully present, like Doc was talking about. In the phrase that Doc was saying, when you're in a room, it's not good enough, because if you're on your phone or you're watching and you're distracted, there's a phrase called emotional proximity. Mm-hmm. Is the distance you have with another human being, not physical. We're sitting 3 feet apart. But if I was completely disengaged somewhere else on my phone, this and that, this 3 feet doesn't mean anything, because our emotional distance could potentially be miles away. And trust me when I tell you, children pick that up faster than anyone else in life. They know when someone's not present. And it's so emotional proximity is something that when I am somewhere, can I be there? And again, a lot of adults have a hard time with being with themselves, let alone being with a developing human that's, you know.
And that's why it takes courage, and it's an opportunity for you to grow.
100%.
And it's also an opportunity for you to develop your adulthood, because you know what? That courage, the things I'm asking you to do, we're talking about insane. What's insane? Well, something as simple as, why are you on social media when your kid's right there, or talking to someone, an avatar as far as I'm concerned, that you don't even know, texting him back and forth on an insane social media world? Put that down and engage in him and know nothing's going to happen. Can you do that? That's pretty simple, and that's an insane world. Now you're going to bring sanity to his life, but you grew. You grew. You showed emotional maturity, translated into behavior and sacrifice for something you believe in, and action towards that being, and you get, in theory, nothing out of it. It's selfless. You just took another notch in your belt of humanity and self-growth.
Yeah. And that's the building block, the first steps towards breaking those multi-generational patterns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a great topic. Guys, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. All of the plugins for Parham, whether it's Buckeye Recovery in Orange County here, great place, been around for a while. His channels, his teaching position at the local college, he's a professor over there. That probably won't help you, but check him out. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you for joining us. Peace.